April 12, 1943. Airfield near Saint-Omer, France. The clouds hang low today and the air smells of rain and aviation fuel. They brought in the remains of a P-47 yesterday. The Americans call it Thunderbolt. We gathered around it like children at a carnival. Someone joked it looked like a flying beer barrel. How could something so bulky ever catch our sleek Bf-109s? We laughed. God help me, we laughed. The skies were ours once. I still remember the feeling in 40 when we swept through France, our Messerschmitts ruling the air unchallenged. Back then we were the predators, and the sky was our hunting ground. The Führer himself pinned the Iron Cross to my chest after my 15th kill. The future belongs to Germany's eagles, he said. His eyes carried absolute certainty. Today we flew patrol over the Channel, Hauptmann Weber leading our schwarm of 4 109s. The radio crackled with position reports, the familiar voices of men I've flown with since Poland. Weber's voice carries the confidence we all pretend to still have. We spot contrails high above, American bomber formations heading for the Ruhr again. I check my oxygen, tighten my straps. My 109G feels responsive, eager. We climb to intercept. The radio suddenly erupts with warning calls. Achtung, Thunderbolts! 3 o'clock high. I roll my aircraft and scan the sky. Nothing at first against the glare of the sun, then movement. 8 P-47s diving toward us, sunlight glinting off their wings. They look heavy, ungainly even, compared to our nimble fighters. They're too heavy to follow us in a tight turn, Weber calls. Break left on my command. I remember thinking how slow they seemed, how American, oversized, overbuilt, like their cars and their cities. The first burst of machine gun fire tears through this thought. The P-47 closing on me isn't firing the familiar 7.7mm rounds we're used to from Spitfires. These are heavy caliber, 50s, 8 of them, and they're not stopping. The sound isn't like anything I've heard before, not the rapid tap of machine guns, but a terrible ripping noise as if the sky itself is being torn apart. My 109 shudders as rounds strike the fuselage. The instrument panel shatters, sending glass into my face. I taste blood. Roll right, dive, pull vapor trails in a tight turn. My hands move through the maneuvers I've performed 1,000 times. The P-47 shouldn't be able to follow. It's too heavy, we all know this. But it does follow, stubborn, determined. Not as nimble, perhaps, but it stays with me far longer than it should. When I finally shake him, I realize I'm alone. The squadron has scattered. Weber's voice is gone from the radio. Instead, American voices, calm and methodical. They sound like businessmen discussing stock prices, not men dealing death at 20,000 feet. 2 o'clock, I've got the trail one. Roger, taking the leader. Watch your 6, red 2. I nurse my damaged 109 back to base. Engine coughing, hydraulics failing. The landing gear deploys only partially. I belly land in a shower of sparks and torn metal. As the crash crew pulls me from the cockpit, I see 3 other 109s approach. Only 3. We were 4. Weber doesn't return. In the officers' mess that night, no one speaks of Weber. We drink schnapps and avoid each other's eyes. Major Hoffman finally breaks the silence. The Americans are learning, he says, but they still don't have our experience or our skill. I nod with the others, but I'm thinking of those 850 caliber guns and the terrible sound they made. I'm thinking of how the P-47 followed me through maneuvers it shouldn't have been able to match. In my bunk, I write to Weber's wife. I tell her he died quickly, though I don't know if that's true. I don't tell her how the Thunderbolt pilot pursued him methodically, professionally, the way a butcher works. I don't tell her that her husband's last word on the radio was simply mutter. June 26, 1943. The operations room smells of cigarettes, coffee, and fear, though no one would admit to the latter. The wall map shows the American bomber corridors in red string. Every day, they push deeper into the Reich. Every day, there are more of them. We received new aircraft yesterday, Bf-109G6S, with the 30mm cannon mounted through the propeller hub. Bomber killers, Hoffman calls them, with a confidence that feels forced. The cannon is powerful, yes, but it's slow to fire and we only carry 55 rounds. The Americans, I've heard, carry thousands of rounds for their .50 calibers. I found a propaganda leaflet on my bunk this morning. It shows our Luftwaffe Eagles tearing apart American bombers. On the back, production figures, Germany outproducing the Americans in fighters. I know it's a lie. The mechanics tell different stories when the officers aren't listening. They say they're cannibalizing 3 damaged 109s to keep one flying. They whisper about American factories producing a P-47 every hour. Alarm sirens wail across the airfield. We run to our aircraft, 12 pilots today, where we once launched 30. Hoffman briefs us quickly. A formation of B-17s heading for the ball-bearing factories in Schweinfurt, escorted by P-47s. Our mission is to break through the fighter screen and attack the bombers. We climb toward the contrails, crisscrossing the summer sky like chalk marks on blue slate. From a distance, it's beautiful, almost peaceful. At 26,000 feet, I can see the bomber formation, flying fortresses in their combat boxes. I count 24 of them. And above, weaving patterns of protective circles, the P-47s. Hoffman leads us higher, planning to dive through the fighter screen. My oxygen mask feels tight, and my breath fogs the plexiglass in short bursts. Engine temperature rising in the thin air. The 109 strains as we approach 30,000 feet. I check my cannon. One burst at close range should down a bomber. That's what they told us in training. Angriff! Hoffman's command sends us diving toward the bombers. For a moment I feel the old exhilaration, the hunter's instinct. Then the radio erupts with warnings. The P-47s have seen us. They're diving too, using their weight, converting altitude to speed. Physics, simple as gravity. They're faster than us now. I focus on a B-17 at the edge of the formation. Just one good burst. I thumb the cannon switch. The P-47s are firing already, those 50 calibers cutting through the sky. I hear the rounds striking my aircraft before I feel them. A high-pitched hail against aluminum. My windscreen spiderwebs with cracks. Something hot tears through my left leg. I fire the cannon at the B-17's wing root. One round hits, a small explosion against the fortress. Not enough. Never enough. The bomber's gunners find me now, adding their fire to the P-47s. I'm caught in a web of tracers, each line representing dozens of unseen rounds. Rolling away, I catch a glimpse of Hoffman's 109 disintegrating, the tail section separating as if cut by shears. No parachute. 3 more of our fighters are trailing smoke. The rest are scattered, each alone against multiple Thunderbolts. I dive toward cloud cover, pushing the damaged engine beyond safety limits. The vibration tells me something's torn loose inside. Behind me, a P-47 follows. Not chasing exactly, pursuing with an American sort of patience. I can't outrun him, can't outclimb him. I try a tight turn, feel the G-forces crushing me into the seat. The P-47 doesn't turn with me, doesn't need to. He simply cuts across my turn radius, appearing where I never expected him. Another burst of 50 caliber fire. My engine catches fire. Black smoke fills the cockpit. The heat is sudden, intense. I struggle with the canopy latch, fingers clumsy in thick gloves. The last thing I see before bailing out is the P-47 pulling alongside me, close enough that I can see the pilot. He doesn't fire again. He simply watches me fight with the canopy. Our eyes meet through shattered plexiglass. He nods once. Then I'm falling through cold air, parachute deploying with a violent jerk. They found me in a farmer's field near Amiens. My leg will heal, the doctor says, but I'll walk with a limp. In the hospital ward, a radio plays quietly. Lael Anderson singing Lily Marlene, a song loved by soldiers on both sides. I think about the P-47 pilot who watched me bail out. I wonder if he likes this song too. October 3rd, 1943. Luftwaffe Hospital, outskirts of Paris. The autumn rain taps against the windows like distant machine gun fire. At night, we hear the bombers passing overhead, heading east, always east, deeper into Germany. No one speaks of it, but we all listen, counting the minutes until the distant rumble of bombs. I return to my squadron today after 2 months of recovery. The faces are different now. So young, boys with only weeks of flight training, sent up against American fighters with hundreds of combat hours. They gather around me like students, hungry for tactics, for secrets of survival. I have none to give them. Only the truth that none of us wants to speak. The Americans are winning the factory war. In my absence, they've modified our 109s with additional armor plate behind the pilot's seat. Protection against those 50 caliber rounds. But the armor makes the aircraft heavier, less responsive. We sacrifice performance for survival, while American factories deliver new P-47Ds with paddle blade propellers that improve their climb rate and maneuverability. I learned this from an intelligence briefing that wasn't supposed to be shared with regular pilots. There's a new directive. We are to focus on the bombers and avoid engaging the Thunderbolts when possible. The P-47 has limited range, Major Osterman explains, replacing Hoffman as our squadron leader. If we can delay, they'll have to turn back for fuel. He doesn't mention what happens when they're replaced by fresh escorts flying from England or newly captured bases in Italy. Yesterday I saw something that haunts me still. A formation of P-47s, 24 of them, escorting B-17s as usual, but they were carrying drop tanks, extra fuel reserves. The intelligence officers said this was impossible, that the Americans couldn't solve the range problem so quickly. Yet there they were, flying deeper into our territory than ever before. The factories at Regensburg were hit, 300 workers killed. The Thunderbolts flew home, dropping their tanks when empty, an arrogant discarding of resources only the Americans could afford. A letter found folded in my locker today, passed through unofficial channels from a pilot in JG 300. Schneider, you asked about production numbers. I have a cousin working at the ministry. The real figures. Americans built 6,242 P-47s in 1943 alone. We built 6,429 Bf-109s, but that's for the entire war since 1939. Do with this information what you will. Burn this letter. H. I burned it as instructed, but the numbers burn in my mind. 6,000 Thunderbolts in 1 year, and that's just one type of fighter among many they produce. Today we intercepted a damaged B-17 limping home after the raid on Münster. An easy kill. As we moved in, 5 P-47s appeared from nowhere, diving from high cover position. Their new drop tanks were gone. They were light, fast, lethal. They scattered our formation with a single pass. Schmidt's 109 went down, burning from engine to cockpit. Becker took cannon fire through his fuel tank. His aircraft simply came apart in mid-air. I managed a snapshot at the B-17's outboard engine before diving away. The lone bomber escaped with its escort. One of the P-47 pilots waggled his wings at me as I fled. Not mockery, something worse. Professional courtesy. In the briefing room tonight, Osterman unfolded a large technical diagram of the P-47. To know your enemy, he said, pointing to the fighter's massive R-2800 double wasp engine, 2,800 cubic inches, 2,000 horsepower. Numbers that seemed impossible. A single American fighter engine producing the power of 20 automobiles. But it makes them heavy, Osterman continued. Use that against them. I studied the armament section of the diagram. 8 50 caliber Browning machine guns, 4 in each wing, each gun capable of firing 800 rounds per minute. Each P-47 carrying 425 rounds per gun. Simple multiplication, 3,400 rounds over 4 sustained seconds of fire, enough to tear a 109 to pieces with a single well-aimed burst. Against this, our single 30mm cannon with its 55 rounds seems almost medieval. After the briefing, I found Osterman studying the map alone, shoulders hunched in the weak light of a desk lamp. How do we win against such production? I asked. He didn't look up. We don't, he said finally. We delay. We hope for the wonder weapons. He traced a finger along the Eastern Front, where the Russians advanced mile by bloody mile. Or we hope the Americans and Soviets remember they don't like each other. In my dreams, I hear those 850 caliber guns. Not the sound they actually make. I'm never close enough to hear that and survive. But what I imagine, a mechanical chorus, the voice of American factories, of Ford assembly lines converted to wartime production. A sound like the future arriving at 2,000 feet per second. January 17, 1944. Luftwaffe airfield near Nancy. The snow falls in thick curtains, grounding all aircraft. In the darkness of early morning, the thermometer reads -15 degrees. Our mechanics work with bare hands on frozen metal because there aren't enough gloves. The frostbite cases outnumber combat casualties this month. We received replacement aircraft yesterday, not factory-fresh 109s, but older models pulled from the Eastern Front, patched and repainted. The mechanic who delivered mine pointed silently to a small hammer and sickle scratched into the instrument panel. "Ivan's calling card," he said, "the Russian who almost got the previous pilot." I traced the crude symbol with my fingertip, wondering about the man who flew this machine before me, whether he survived or now lies in frozen Russian soil. Fuel is severely rationed now. We're limited to 60-minute sorties, barely enough time to climb to altitude, engage and return if we're lucky. The Americans know this. Their P-47s, once limited by range, now carry 2 sets of drop tanks. They can escort bombers to any target in Germany and still have fuel for combat. They hunt us over our own airfields, catching us at our most vulnerable during takeoff and landing. Yesterday's mission briefing brought grim statistics. Allied bombing has reduced our aviation fuel production by 60%. The Schweinfurt bearing factories operate at 30% capacity. The Focke-Wulf plant at Marienburg, destroyed. And still, intelligence reports tell us of American factory workers in 3 shifts, of P-47s rolling off Republic aviation assembly lines at the rate of 1 every hour and 20 minutes. We flew a desperate mission this afternoon. The cloud ceiling lifted just enough for the bombers to find their targets, the synthetic oil plants at Mersburg, critical to our fuel supply. 32 of us took off, a mixed group of 109s and FW-190s, every operational fighter from 3 damaged squadrons. We climbed through broken clouds, ice forming on my windscreen despite the alcohol de-icing system. The temperature gauge reads -30 at 22,000 feet. My breath freezes on my oxygen mask. The radio crackles with position reports, but there's a new tension in the voices. Everyone knows what waits above. We break through the cloud layer into brilliant winter sunshine. The world below is hidden under white cotton, peaceful, abstract. Then I see them. Contrails first, dozens of them like alabaster scratches against the blue. B-17s and B-24s in tight formation, hundreds of them, their aluminum skins glinting, and above them, around them, between them, P-47s. No longer just escorts but hunters, roaming freely through our airspace. Osterman gives the attack order. We dive toward the bombers from above, the sun at our backs, textbook tactics. For a moment, I allow myself to hope. Then, the Thunderbolts are there, rising to meet us, 8-gun batteries firing in concentrated bursts. The sky fills with tracers and black puffs of 20mm flak from the ground batteries far below. I focus on a B-17, line up my shot. The cannon barks once, twice. Hits on the bomber's wing. Not enough. Never enough. A P-47 appears in my mirror, closing fast. I break right, diving toward the cloud cover below. The American follows, his 850s finding my tail. I feel impacts through the control stick, the rudder pedals suddenly loose, unresponsive. I roll inverted and pull, trading altitude for speed in a split S maneuver. The 109 protests, airframe groaning under the strain. I feel something tear loose behind me. The P-47 is still there, methodical, patient. Another burst walks across my wing route. My aircraft shudders violently. Warning lights illuminate across the panel. I'm hit, but still flying. The clouds are just below me now, salvation in vaporous white. I dive for them, pushing the damaged engine beyond all safety limits. The temperature gauge climbs into the red, oil pressure dropping. Just a few more seconds. The P-47 fires again, and this time there's no missing. My cockpit fills with shattered plexiglass and the smell of burning oil. Something strikes my right arm with tremendous force. Not a bullet, but fragments of my own aircraft. The pain comes a second later, distant at first, then searing. I tumble into the cloud layer, blind, fighting for control with one hand. The stick pulls hard right. Damage to the control surfaces. I can't see, can't think through the pain. Then I break through the bottom of the clouds and the ground is there, rushing up. No time for a proper bailout. I jettison the canopy and feel the cold air tear at me. Pull the harness release. Push away from the aircraft with my good arm. The parachute deploys automatically at low altitude. The jolt nearly causes me to black out. My 109 spirals away, impacting a snow-covered field in a brilliant orange fireball. I drift down nearby, landing hard in deep snow that cushions my fall, but sends lightning bolts of pain through my injured arm. I lie there looking up at the hole in the clouds I fell through. Contrails crisscross the patch of blue above. The bombers continue east, untouched, unstoppable. I can't hear the engines anymore, just the wind across the snow and my own labored breathing. Hours later, a farmer finds me half frozen. He doesn't speak as he helps me to his cart, covers me with hay, and delivers me to a field hospital near Strasbourg. The doctors save my arm, but tell me I'll never fly again. The nerve damage is too severe. I can barely grip a pencil to write these words. From my hospital bed I listen to the daily bombing raids. The nurses no longer react to the air raid sirens. They've accepted what I'm only now beginning to understand. We are witnessing the end of something, not just a war but an era. Today a nurse brought me a newspaper with the daily Luftwaffe claims: 10 B-17s shot down, 7 P-47s destroyed. I know these numbers are fiction. Through my window I watch fresh-faced pilots march toward transport trucks, headed for fighter training school, their training cut from 2 years to 2 months by desperate necessity. None of them look back at the hospital. They don't want to see their future. May 8, 1945. Allied POW camp near Nuremberg. The war ended today. The loudspeakers announced it during morning roll call. Some prisoners cheered. Most stood in silence. I felt nothing but a profound emptiness, as if something essential had been removed from inside me. In the camp library, a collection of donated books and old magazines, I found an American aircraft manufacturing journal. It contained the final production figures for the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, 15,636 aircraft built between 1941 and 1945. 15,000 of the machine that haunted my dreams. 15,000 of the fighter we laughed at when we first saw its bulky fuselage. A young American lieutenant who guards our barracks speaks German. He flew P-47s with the 56th Fighter Group, Zemke's Wolfpack. Yesterday, I showed him the scar that runs from my elbow to my fingertips. 850s, I told him. He nodded, understanding immediately. Our 2800 double Wasp engine, he said. The best power plant we ever built. No pride in his voice, just fact. 2,000 horsepower, eventually 2,800 with water injection. We never stood a chance, I said. He considered this, then shook his head. Your 109 was a great fighter, better than the P-47 in many ways. He paused. But we built more of them. Many, many more. This morning, he brought me a technical manual for the P-47D. A gift, he said. An acknowledgement between professionals. I turned the pages carefully with my good hand, studying the schematics, the cutaway diagrams showing the massive engine, the wing sections packed with the 850 caliber Brownings. The last page contained production figures by factory. The Republic Aviation Plant at Farmingdale, New York, the Curtiss Wright Plant at Buffalo. The P-47 was built in 5 different factories across America, each producing more aircraft per month than all of Germany's factories combined by the end of the war. May 12, 1945. The rains have turned the campgrounds to mud. We trudge through it during our daily exercise period, 100 men walking in circles, speaking little. Last night they showed us newsreels of the concentration camps, Bergen-Belsen, Buchenwald, Dachau, the walking skeletons staring at American cameras, the bulldozers pushing corpses into mass graves. No one in our barracks slept afterward. What have we been part of? Lieutenant Donnelly, the P-47 pilot, found me sitting alone at breakfast. He saw my face and knew I'd watched the films. Did you know? He asked quietly. Not like that, I answered truthfully. We heard rumors, whispers, but not that. He nodded, neither accusing nor absolving. He's from Chicago, he told me. His grandfather was from Frankfurt, emigrated in 1904. We talked of flying, of the sensation of altitude and speed that transcends nationality, common ground between enemies. I shot down 3 109s, he said finally. I never saw the pilots get out. I downed 2 P-47s, I replied. 1 pilot bailed out. The other didn't. We sat in silence, the weight of those lives between us. Then he asked if I would show him my logbook. I retrieved it from my footlocker. Dog-eared pages filled with mission details, combat reports, terse notes on weather and enemy formations. He studied it carefully, tracing flight paths with his finger, nodding at familiar locations. October 14th, 1943, he said suddenly. Schweinfurt raid. You were there? I nodded, remembering the desperate scramble, the sky filled with bombers and fighters. I was there too, he said. My first combat mission. He described his position in the formation, the exact time of engagement. We had been there together, perhaps firing at each other, separated by mere seconds and meters in the vast European sky. Later, walking the perimeter fence, I asked him about the Thunderbolt's armor, how much it could absorb. Half-inch steel plate behind the pilot, he said. Engine block designed to take multiple 20mm hits, self-sealing fuel tanks. He looked at me. Your 109 had none of that. A thin metal plate, I said. Some late models had head armor, never enough. I remembered Schmidt's aircraft, the 20mm round that went straight through his seat, the blood that covered his instrument panel. We could take hits, Donnelly said. That was the philosophy, build it to survive. He picked up a stone, tossed it toward the fence. Your planes were built for performance, not punishment. Like Germany itself, I said quietly. May 18th, 1945. The Americans are processing us for release. Those without Nazi Party membership will go home first. I qualify, I never joined, despite pressure from Hoffman and others. The Americans have 1,000 questions about aircraft production, factory locations, experimental weapons programs. I answer what I can, but I was just a pilot, not privy to higher decisions. Donnelly brought photographs today. 810 glossy prints showing P-47 production lines, women in headscarves fitting wing assemblies, massive overhead cranes lowering the R-2800 engines into airframes, a finished Thunderbolt rolling off the line every 45 minutes at peak production. I stared at the images, trying to comprehend the scale. We converted automobile factories, he explained. Before the war they made Packards and Buicks. We retooled everything in months. He showed me a photo of a vast parking lot filled with completed P-47s, hundreds of them gleaming in the sun. That's 1 week's production from Farmingdale. Just one factory. I thought of our aircraft factories, hidden in forests camouflaged against bombing, dispersed across the Reich in small units. Workers standing in unheated hangars in winter, their breath visible as they fitted cannons to frozen airframes, the constant shortages, the desperate cannibalizing of parts. We had pilots, I said. Good ones, experienced ones. We had factories, he replied simply. At dinner we shared a table with other pilots, Americans and Germans together, separated by language but united by the strange brotherhood of flight. A captain from the 78th Fighter Group demonstrated P-47 tactics with salt shakers and spoons. 2 former Bf-109 pilots showed how they would counter. The mess hall grew animated, hands moving in combat maneuvers, voices rising with the universal sounds of diving aircraft and machine gun fire. For a moment I glimpsed what peace might look like, professional respect across former battle lines. Then someone mentioned the camps again, and silence fell. May 30th, 1945. My release papers came today. Tomorrow I return to a Germany I no longer recognize. Cities reduced to rubble, economy collapsed, divided among occupying powers. I wonder what awaits me in Munich, if my family home still stands, if my parents survived the bombing. This morning Donnelly asked to see the photographs I carry, the small collection I managed to keep through capture and imprisonment. I showed him snapshots of our airfield in France, pilots lounging beside 109s in summer sunshine. A blurry image of Weber beside his aircraft, smiling beneath his oxygen mask. The last picture taken before the P-47s found him. You look so young, Donnelly said, studying a group photo from 1942. We were, I replied. Most of those smiling faces now lie in marked or unmarked graves across Europe. Boys who believed in eagles and iron crosses, who discovered too late the terrible mathematics of industrial warfare. I asked to see his photographs. He hesitated, then reached into his breast pocket. Not photos of aircraft or comrades, but of Chicago, his family home on Lakeshore Drive, his young wife on their wedding day, a newborn daughter he's never met. "Why do you show me these?" I asked. "Because we're both going home," he said, "to very different worlds." Later, as the sun set across the camp, he brought me the technical manual again. "Keep it," he said. "Study it. Understand what beat you." No cruelty in his voice, only the pragmatism of a victor who can afford generosity. I close the manual and look out the window at American trucks bringing supplies to the camp. Beyond them, I can see German women clearing rubble from the streets of Nuremberg, piling bricks for reuse. Children watch the American soldiers with curiosity rather than fear, accepting chocolate bars and chewing gum. In the distance, a P-47 flies a lazy patrol circuit, sunlight glinting off its wings. I no longer feel fear at the sight, only a strange sense of closure, of a circle completed. We laughed at them once, their size, their seeming clumsiness. We didn't understand what they represented. Not just an aircraft, but a system, a capacity for production that overwhelmed all the skill and courage we could muster. Tonight, as the camp grows quiet, I'll finish this diary and give it to the American lieutenant. Perhaps someday someone will read it and understand what it was like to fight against not just a superior force, but a superior industrial power, to stand against those 8.50 caliber guns and the terrible mathematics of American production. The sun sets over the ruined city. The P-47 banks westward, heading home, its silhouette dark against the orange sky. The sound of its massive radial engine carries across the camp, not the high-strung scream of our inline engines, but something deeper, more confident. The sound of factories and oil fields and assembly lines. The sound of a war won before it was fought. In the margin, a final note added in different handwriting. This diary was provided to me by Werner Schneider, former Luftwaffe fighter pilot, in May 1945. At his request, I am sending it to the Historical Division, United States Air Forces in Europe. Schneider asked that it be preserved as a reminder of what he called the victory of production over valor. First Lieutenant Michael Donnelly, 56th Fighter Group, USAF. Discover more untold stories from the skies of WU2 by subscribing now and hitting the notification bell. History isn't just what happened, it's what was felt, feared, and remembered.